When you're a new parent, this question of why is my baby crying and what do I do about it is kind of a big deal. So, when I was a new parent, I read some articles, I looked at some statistical studies, I then took what I learned with my baby and I applied it in real life. My baby is now 2, and I'm pregnant with my second child. And so I'm going to give you a lot of the information that helped me in an attempt to help you help your baby. Okay, so when you're a new parent and your baby cries, it's inevitable. The baby's going to cry. You're going to want to figure out what's going on and how to remedy the situation as quickly as possible. It's just basic instinct. And there's, some complexity to it because it could be a number of things. But one thing that used to drive me crazy when I was a new parent was people, older people especially, older people named Mildred or something like that, would say, oh, your baby's probably just colicky. Or the other one that really you get a lot, which is so annoying once they get a little bit older, is, oh, your baby's probably teething. Is your baby teething? Is your baby colicky? No, it's really not that. So there's a lot of things that you can do to fix the situation that have nothing to do with colic or teething. Statistically, 20% of babies actually have colic. And colicky babies cry probably a lot more than your baby does. Like, colicky babies usually cry for like 2 to 3 hours straight on end, 4 or more days a week. And that's not your baby. If your baby is experiencing abdominal discomfort, you notice they're like, moving around, like they're uncomfortable and their stomach's hurting, there are these baby gas drops that you can buy. Now, I read about it in an article about why is your baby crying, and they swore up and down you need to check out these gas drops. The same week I read that article, and I was really thinking about that, my little sister, who has umpteen children, said, oh, Jackie. She didn't know I'd read this article. She said, oh, Jackie, best thing I can tell you is get the gas drops. They are like crack for babies. I mean, that's not really exactly the truth, but I mean, it does really make that much of a difference. It can just totally save your life. So I bought the gas drops, and I bought some really good, what's called gripe water from a company called Mother's Bliss. It was a more natural one that didn't have any added sweeteners, and it was with chamomile, which I am a huge advocate of chamomile. So good for your nervous system, so good for soothing and calm and peacefulness. And so I had this little Tupperware container ready to go all the time that had the gripe water and the gas drops in it. And I remember one night, I was up in the middle of the night with the baby, and she was crying, but she wasn't hungry. And she was moving around like that, like super freaked out and uncomfortable and upset and distraught. And I gave her those gas drops. I didn't rely on them very often, but there were these 1 or 2 times, and this is the one time I really remember it. I gave her those gas drops, and instantly everything was better. And it was the middle of the night, and it was dark, and I was tired, and we were just ready to go back to bed. And she was just like, oh. And I felt like so on point and so amazing because I was able to fix the thing. I could instinctually tell she was uncomfortable, she was in pain, and I gave her the gas drops, and it fixed it right then and there. So there are a couple of things you can have on hand to make that easier when you're in that situation. I would definitely recommend getting the gas drops proactively. There's a few things you should get proactively. Gripe water in case your baby has hiccups or needs gripe water. You'll find reasons for it, I'm sure. And then the gas drops, and also it's not a bad idea to have the fever reliever on hand ready to go and a thermometer, because you're going to get to a point at some point where your baby has a fever, and if you just have the thermometer and the fever reliever ready to go, you're going to feel really put together when you get to that point and your baby's got a fever of 102. Okay, another reason why your baby is crying. So babies get tired and then they get overtired. So if you aren't paying attention to your baby's cues where they're like rubbing their eyes or they're looking drowsy or bored or drunk, and you don't just get them down for a nap in time, they can really get stressed out by that. And if they get overtired, it is going to be like a screaming fit of crying. And when you get to that point, it's a lot harder to get them down. So if you just pay attention to what they call wakeful windows, like 3-month-old babies are awake for X amount of hours. 4-month-old babies are awake for X amount of hours. I think 6-month-old babies are usually awake for like 4 hours. And the older they get, these windows of wakefulness in between naps gets a little wider and a little longer. If you just pay attention to those wakeful windows, which technically aren't based on any statistical studies, but just a lot of anecdotal evidence and observations by parents who have been doing this for a while, yeah, those wakeful windows, if you make sure the baby takes a nap or goes to bed before then, you can avoid getting to that point. If you get to that point, you're just going to have to try to get the baby down. Whatever you use to get your baby to sleep, whether it's like rocking them to sleep, or some people bounce them on a ball, some people nurse or bottle feed their babies to sleep. And honestly, whatever you're doing, even if it's like not what is the conventional wisdom, if it's working for you and your baby, good for you. You know, if your baby's happy and you're happy, I'm happy for you. No judgment. Okay, hunger. Yeah, if your baby gets hungry, of course they're going to cry. That's an easy one. You just, feed them and the problem's solved. But if you can feed them before they get to the point of crying, that's really ideal. You'll notice little babies start to bite their hands, and they have other hunger cues where you start to notice that they're hungry, they're rooting around looking for something. If you can feed the baby ahead of time before they get to the point of crying for hunger, you're just going to save everybody a lot of stress. Let's see, what else? Overstimulation. Yeah, that's a big one. If the baby is in an unfamiliar situation and there's just too much excitement going on, they can get overstimulated. And so if you try to minimize overstimulation and freaking them out, then they're less likely to cry. Sometimes babies just need attention. Maybe they just need something else to think about. Maybe you just need to redirect. That's one thing I have used a lot when my baby is getting fussy or crying or there's a problem situation. Sometimes they just need a little bit of attention and a little bit of guidance. So having like a favorite toy on hand or a book that they like that you can just pull out of your back pocket or your purse from time to time. When you're in these stressful situations like going to the doctor's office, or you are getting on an airplane, or you're stuck in a waiting room somewhere, if you can have something to redirect with. I have this one music toy by Baby Einstein that made a huge difference at doctor's appointments and things of that nature. You just press one big button and it played all of this beautiful, awesome classical music and would light up, and that would just save the day when my child was getting fussy and about to start crying, or did start crying in these sort of situations and settings. Being able to redirect when your baby's just needing a little bit of extra attention or a little bit of a distraction can make a big difference. Oh, there's this little pocket-sized version of Are You My Mother? That P.D. Eastman classic book. I had it in a little board book, and yeah, I took that on a plane with me, and I read it like 50 million times, and my baby did not cry the entire time. It's just some stuff to distract the baby with, to change the tone, to change their attention and where it's going and what they're thinking about. That can make a huge difference. Peekaboo. Yeah, that's a good one too. Peekaboo. Yeah, I mean, that's a classic one. If you're just making faces and making silly voices and playing with the baby, that'll totally change the tempo. If the baby's about to cry or is getting fussy, that's something that you can try before they get fussy. Sometimes if you try to do that shit, pardon my French, if you try to do that stuff after the baby gets fussy, they'll just get annoyed with you. So yeah, try to redirect before it gets to that point. And what if your baby is actually teething? Because there's going to be that one day they are actually cutting a tooth and they are crying. I found that all of the research I did on teething gels and things of that nature made me really weary of using any of it. So if you are thinking about trying any of those teething gels or baby pain relievers, really do your research on that. I mean, if you're going to do anything, you should probably really do some research on that, but I would not recommend that. What I found helped my baby was when she was 6 months old. That's when she cut her first 2 teeth, those little bottom 2 teeth, and we used to call her Daphne 2 teeth. When she was cutting those 2 teeth, frozen fruit helped quite a bit. There's these little teething rings that are like mesh, and you can like stuff some frozen fruit in there, and we gave her like frozen strawberries and frozen blueberries, organic of course, that I got at Trader Joe's for a reasonable price. And that really helped with the teething situation. And then just holding them and being really supportive and patient and kind, because it's really hard for them. It's like the biggest thing that's happened in their life up until that point. So just being the supportive and caring person and holding them which is what they need, is a lot of comfort and sympathy and caring love while they're crying. And then just knowing that you're going to get through it, because it doesn't last forever and it's going to get better soon. That's for you, not for the baby, because somebody needs to hold you too. You've got this. Alright, well, I hope you found some of this helpful. If you can think of some reasons that babies were crying and what you did to solve that situation that I forgot to mention here, feel free to include that in the comments below. That would be helpful. I mean, there's other parents out there that could probably learn more from you than they could learn from me. If you like this video, feel free to like this video. And if you really want to help me out, subscribe to my channel. I could really use the support. Alright, well, I'm wishing you and your family all the best. Take care.